السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. دكتور نضال الصالحي, Faculty of Business, University of Petra. Today we will start with chapter 6 in order to tackle the strategy formulation stage. Of course, we will take today the first level, which is the business level strategy. I would like to remind you first with things before we start. If you still remember, we started this semester with chapter 1, which was the basic concepts of strategic planning or strategic management. And if you still remember, we said that there are four stages in general that we are going to cover during this semester, which is related to the strategic management. The first stage in strategic management, to remind you, it was environmental scanning. If you remember, chapter 4 was environmental scanning, which is related to the external environment, industry analysis. In chapter 5, of course, chapter 4, or analyzing the external environment, the purpose of that is to identify the opportunities and threats. And of course, in chapter 5, we discuss the environmental scanning also, but which is related to the internal environment analysis in order to identify strength and weaknesses. Now suppose, we are ready now, we know what are the opportunities and threats in the external environment, strength and weaknesses in our internal environment as a company. Now we will start with stage number 2, which is the strategy formulation. Now we are going to formulate our strategy based on the results, based on the results that we come up with from the first stage, which is the environmental scanning. So we will see, or we will try to summarize our strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and based on that we will start formulating our strategy. Now in formulating the strategy, there are 3 levels. We can classify, let's say, our strategies into 3 levels. First of all, of course, we have the corporate level strategy, and we have the business level strategy, which is here in chapter 6, and we have the functional level strategy. Now we have chapter 6, which we will start today. Instead of starting with the corporate level strategy, we will start with the business level strategy. After that, in chapter 7, we will cover the corporate level strategy, and in chapter 8, we will discuss the functional level strategy. So let's start with chapter 6, strategy formulation, and we will take the second level, let's say, which is the business strategy level, which will be, of course, which is the responsibility, usually the responsibility of both top management together with the middle level management, because business level strategy in general, it is on the middle level management. And of course, our learning objectives for today is organize environmental and organizational information using, as I said a while ago, the SWOT analysis, the results that we come up with, but we will call it here today as the strategic factor analysis summary matrix. We'll see the matrix later on. And of course, our second learning objective is to understand the competitive strategies available to corporations. So first of all, what is strategy formulation? Of course, strategy formulation will be concerned with developing a corporation's mission, objectives, strategies, and policies And of course, it will begins with what we call situation analysis. And again, I would like to remind you now, situation analysis is the same as SWOT analysis, okay, but it will conclude also what we call the best analysis, which is the political factors, economic factors, it should be taken into consideration, social factors, and technological factors. Now, what is situation analysis? It is the process of finding a strategic fit between external opportunities and internal strength. If I have internal strength in terms of my financial resources, human resources, material resources, then I have to use it, I have to utilize it, to exploit it in order to what? In order to, let's say, have or in order to use it for the external opportunities, and take the external opportunities into consideration, because my competitors also, they are trying to do the same, okay? At the same time, while working around external threats and internal weaknesses. And here we have to take note. Usually we said that you have to neutralize as a company the threats so that it will not affect you. At the same time, you have to avoid weaknesses, because weaknesses will lead to your weaknesses will lead to strengthen the competitive advantage of your competitors. Okay, so SWOT analysis again, as I told you, because situational analysis, it's usually the SWOT analysis approach. Now, SWOT analysis, it's an abbreviation used to describe the particular strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are potential strategies factors for a specific companies. Our strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, it means it will lead us to what are the strategic factors, or what are the strategic alternatives that we have in front of us now based on this analysis. Okay, first of all, if we talk about strategy, what is a strategy? Now, in general, of course, we know that a strategy is a set of actions that that are taken in order to increase organizational performance in general, or we call it sometimes corporate performance. Here you should know that your strategy is equal to your opportunity divided by your capacity, which means that you cannot take advantage of the market opportunity unless you have enough capacity in terms of your human resources, in terms of your financial resources, in terms of your material resources. In addition to that, don't forget that you should have core competences, or what we call distinctive competences, which is superior efficiency, superior quality, superior innovation, and superior responsiveness to customers, in order to be able to strengthen your capacity. And we could add also the capabilities of the company, because sometimes, okay, there are opportunities, but you don't have enough capabilities in order to take advantage of that particular market opportunities. At the same time, opportunity has no real value unless a company has the capacity, as I told you, which is the resources again, the three types of resources. In addition to that, as we said, the capabilities and the distinctive competences, or the core competences of the company, which will allow you to build or attain a competitive advantage which is related to a particular opportunity in the market. Now, there are some criticism of SWOT analysis. SWOT by itself is just a start to a strategic analysis. It's only the start, because it's the first step usually, or the first stage, let's say, which is the result of environmental scanning, of course, external external and internal. Now, some of the primary criticism of SWOT analysis are, some scientists, they criticize the SWOT analysis. They are telling to us that you cannot only depend on the SWOT analysis by itself in order to develop your strategic alternatives and then select the best alternative. First of all, the first criticism is simply the options of those filling out the boxes. Sometimes the people who fill up the boxes, the boxes of the SWOT analysis, sometimes they just want to fill it up and they don't have much option to do. So they will just try to fill it up in a way that it will be convenience for them. Second criticism is virtually everything that is a strength is also a weakness. Now, some companies, for example, in terms of financial resources, sometimes you have, a strength in terms of your financial resources, but when you combine that, or you compare that to your knowledgeable workers, the degree of knowledge to your employees and their skills and attitudes, then your money will do nothing. And then it will be like a weakness for you if you don't really utilize your financial resources well. Virtually, also, the third criticism is everything that is an opportunity is also sometimes a threat. What is an opportunity is also a threat. A lot of company, they may think that there is a market opportunity that they can take advantage of. Then when they will start working at it, they will discover that their competitors, they are also targeting the same opportunity with, let's say, higher distinctive competencies, more core competencies, more capabilities, and then, of course, the opportunity will be as a threat for the company if you don't really analyze things well. That's why we always say that management, when they analyze their SWOT, they make analysis for their strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, they have to take into consideration the competitiveness analysis, which means that they have at the same time to analyze also the strength and weaknesses of their competitors, not only their strength and weaknesses, in order to know if this is a real opportunity or it could be a threat for them. Adding layers of effort does not improve the validity of the list. Even though we add more efforts, more actions to do in our strategic plan, adding more actions, number of actions, does not mean that your list of strengths and weaknesses is valid. Because we are talking about future. When we talk about strategic planning, we are talking about a future. And of course, we depend on forecasting. And you know that forecasting is the basis of planning, and we always have a forecasting error. So the forecasting error sometimes it's huge, it's large. When it's large, then you will depend on something, or you will try to do something which is really not related to the fact at the time. That's why some companies they will go toward short-term planning, because the accuracy of the short-term planning is higher than the accuracy of a long-term planning. Also, another criticism for SWOT analysis is it uses a single point in time approach. They are looking only, for example, they are, let's say, talking about strength and weaknesses in terms of their superior quality, or their innovation or their efficiency. They will take the efficiency into consideration as a single point, but they will not relate the efficiency to quality, or the efficiency, let's say, to innovation, and so on. There is also no tie to the view from the customers. You did your environmental scanning, you already know your strengths and weaknesses, and the opportunities and threats in the market, but you did not make any survey to take the view of your customers. And we know that what is the most important is what we call the customer value. Is it how customer perceive your product or service? And unfortunately, SWOT analysis is not taking the customer value into consideration. At the same time, or the last criticism is that there is no validated evaluation approach. We don't know any really particular method. Okay, scientists did not really define any particular method in order to make validation for the SWOT analysis. They will just, okay, collect information, data about the external environment, internal environment, and based on that, they will start developing their strategic alternative, which might be, let's say, incorrect, or sometimes it will mislead the company in developing the right strategic alternatives. Now, generating a strategic factor or factors analysis summary, we call it SFAS matrix. Okay, there's a matrix for our strategic factors analysis summary. What is this matrix? It summarizes an organization's strategic factors by combining the external factors, from the external factor analysis summary table. If you still remember, in our previous two chapters, in chapter 4, which was related to organizational analysis, external environment, of course, and chapter 5, which was related to the internal environment, organizational analysis. We, at the end of each chapter, for example, in chapter 4, we have the last slide was the external factor analysis summary of the Maytag, American company for manufacturing washing machine, and at the same time, the last slide in chapter 5 was about the internal factor analysis summary, for the same company, which is also the Maytag. Let's see together how we combine the EFAS and the IFAS, as you can see here, EFAS and the IFAS, together, which means the external factors, strategic factors, and the internal strategic factors together, in order to come up with the strategic factor analysis summary here, as we can see in this figure. Now, this portion of this table, it was in chapter 4, at the end of chapter 4, if you still remember. Now, this table, which is the external strategic factors, it was at the end of chapter 5. Now we combine them together in order to come up with, like what we did, we combine the strength and weaknesses with the opportunities and threats. We combine them together and we come up with the result. And as you can see in the result here, we have a weighted score, a weight for each factor, strategic factor. We have also, like we see here, a rating, and we have also at the same time a weighted score. Now here is our advice. If you still remember the criticism for the SWOT analysis, now we cannot depend on this unless we compare it with our competitors. We have to do, we have importance weight, but when we do the rating for each factor here, we should have a benchmark, and the benchmark is our competitor, because benchmarking means that you have to compare yourself with the best in class, in order to really justify your strategic alternatives that you are going to depend on, or that you are going to evaluate in order to come up with the, let's say, appropriate strategic planning, which will lead the company to have a sustainable competitive advantage. Now, finding propitious Niche. Now, what is a niche? Now, before we say propitious, like appropriate niche, what is the niche? Niche is a small market, usually, in general. If I want to define a niche means a small market. Small market that your competitors really did not notice it. Okay? So, a niche is a need in the marketplace that is currently unsatisfied. Okay, there is a certain service or a certain product, let's say, for a certain area, geographical area. This need, our competitor, they are not satisfying it. We will try to look always for niches, okay, in order to be able to compete in that particular or in that geographical area. Now the goal is to find a precious niche, an extremely favorable niche. Okay, why favorable niche? Yani it should be profitable niche. Okay, why? Because niches usually will evaporate. That's why you should look always for more than one niche that is so well suited to the firm's internal and external environment that this is very important, other corporations or other companies are not likely to challenge or dislodge it. Okay, now strategic windows, on the other hand, it is a firm's management must continually look for a strategic windows, that is a unique market opportunity that is available for a particular time. Like for example, now with the corona, let's say with the corona virus, Allah يبعده عن الجميع. If you notice, I don't know if you are watching the news now, a lot of textile manufacturing companies in the world now, they have the opportunity of manufacturing masks in addition. Yani they are not specialized in manufacturing masks, okay, to protect from the coronavirus, but because it's an opportunity in the market now, most of them, they have new product line for manufacturing high volume of masks in order to provide the market, because it's really needed in the market and it's an opportunity for them to do that in order to increase, their profit and their profitability growth. At the same time, before you go further, before you develop your strategic alternatives, and before we go to the competitive strategies, which we will discuss next meeting, okay, we have to review our mission and objectives. Okay, of course, we said before that before any strategic planning, we should have four things: vision, mission, okay, core values, and then strategies. Corporate goals, and then strategies. Now, suppose before you go further, you have to go back. Look at your vision. Look at your mission. Sometimes your mission is too broad, let's say. So you have maybe to revise your mission or revise your objectives or whatever in order to fit with the new environment, because our environment is very dynamic. So because, as I told you, before we start selecting and formulating our strategies on the three levels, which is the corporate level and the business level and the functional level, which we will discuss in the next chapters, we have to re-examine the organization current mission and objectives, okay, and it must be made before alternative strategies, as I told you, can be generated and evaluated. Now, performance problems, what do we mean by performance problems? Now, performance problems can derive from inappropriate, as I said a while ago, narrow or too broad mission statements and objectives, or sometimes it's unclear objectives. And of course, some companies sometimes, for example, some of the objectives will be very broad or not clear. Like when we say our objective is to become financially stronger, let's say. This is not a smart objective. Okay, we have to, on the other hand, if we will say that we have to reduce our debt by $1 million, for example, then this is a more, let's say, more narrower. It's a narrower objective. It's a more clear objective. It's more specific objective. And of course, we will do the same for our mission. For our mission statement. Yani some pharmaceutical companies, another example, now they are saying that, for example, our mission is to make, or our vision is, let's say, to make cancer history. Okay, now making cancer history, it's a very broad vision, and of course it will lead to a very broad mission at the same time. So it's better if we re-examine and review our mission and our corporate objectives, corporate goals, or common goals, in order to make it narrower and more specific. Okay, now we will start now with our business strategies, and you should know that here in our business strategy, of course, we will discuss, of course, the alternatives here for next meeting. Why? Because we have to talk about the generic strategies, all of the types of the generic strategies for Porter. We will discuss it next meeting. But right now, I would like to tell you that business strategy will focus on improving the competitive position of a company or business unit's products or services within the specific industry or market segments that the company, your company or business unit serves. Don't forget that the business strategy, it's the in the first degree, it is the responsibility of the middle level management. Okay? Now the corporate level, the corporate strategy, which we will discuss, of course, in chapter 7, it will be the responsibility of top management in the first degree, of course. Now, the functional level strategy, it will be the responsibility of the operational level management. Now, on the business level strategy, we have, as we can see here, two types of strategy. One of them is competitive, which we will concentrate, of course, next on the competitive strategies next meeting. And we have also a cooperative strategies. It could be a competitive strategies, and it could be a cooperative strategies with your competitors. Now, in general, there are two types of cooperative strategies, which is strategic alliances, which means sometimes instead of going to a competitive strategy as a company, I will go to a cooperative strategy. Like strategic alliances is one of them. Joint venture, of course, is one type of the strategic alliances. What's the meaning of strategic alliances? In general, strategic alliances, most of the time, it will concentrate of having a long-term, as you can see, long-term partnership with your suppliers, with reliable suppliers. When you have long-term partnership with your suppliers, then you will assure that the quality of your input, okay, that you will have a high quality of your input in, of course, in a reasonable price. Some company suppose that I am using, for example, just in time. Now I cannot order in just in time. I cannot make order of raw material in large lot sizes. So I need small lot sizes in order to apply the just in time. And now if I have a contract, a long-term partnership contracts with my suppliers, then I can do that. Another cooperative strategy is collusion. Now, collusion is a secret agreement among competitors to share information for a deceitful or illegal purposes. Some companies, sometimes they will agree to exchange informations. Instead of competitive strategy, we will use a cooperative strategy. A group of companies, they can have a secret agreement that they are going to exchange, let's say, exchange information in order to have let's say a strategy in a way that both of them will attain profit and profitability growth, and sustainable competitive advantage. So, for example, they will agree on prices. Okay, we will let our prices to be in this level. We will not put it lower than this level. Okay, we will produce this much. Okay, or sometimes they agree that they will divide the market between them in a way in order to be in order to keep their bargaining power stronger with compared to the buyer bargaining power. Now this is with regard the cooperative strategies. Okay, but our concentration in this chapter really is about the competitive strategies, which is the Porter's competitive strategies, not the cooperative strategies, which we will discuss inshallah next meeting. Now this end the video for today. Please prepare the material for next meeting, because we will discuss a very important competitive strategies, which is the 4 generic strategies for Porter. At the end, I will of course hope good health for every and each one of you, and I hope to see you always fine, and I will be with you with another video to continue this chapter 6 next meeting. Thank you very much, and please try to study the material in advance, because we will have a surprise quizzes almost in each meeting, or at least at the end of each week. It means after we finish the subject for 1 week, we might have quizzes in order to check and to evaluate our understanding for the topics that we are discussing. Thank you very much.